So I think it's because as boaters, we're connected with our environment out on the water, and therefore we want to look at ways that we can protect that. But also, the reason the Green Blue was set up is because government bodies and agencies are actually coming to those two organisations with concerns around recreational boating and our impact that we were having. And the Our Way British Marine suddenly realised, hold on a minute, how are we telling our members about these environmental issues and what can they do? We need to set up a programme here to do that for us. The two organisations started talking, and the Our Way said, well look, we can educate boat users, clubs and centres on how they can be more environmentally sustainable, but there will get to a point where there's a limit and a barrier. So you might ask a boat user like yourselves to recycle on board, but if you haven't got recycling facilities on shore at marinas, or you haven't got more sustainable products like electric engines or sails made out of recycled polyester, how can the boat user then be more sustainable? So the two organisations coming together hopes to have that sort of synergy and bring that forwards. Things have changed massively over the years since the Green Blue was first set up. It was very much us going to boat users, trying to get change to happen, doing just for that basic awareness raising. Over the last few years, it's completely changed, where boat users are now coming to us, the demand has increased, and I know there's some of you here tonight wanting to know more about whether you can go electric on board, how you can make your boating more sustainable, you're asking more detailed questions. That tells us that there's now an increase in demand and actually we want to take action now. Rather than, oh that's nice to know, might think about it, might do it later. So, in terms of what I'm going to go through, I've done a little bit of an intro to the Green Blue already. I'm going to give you a bit of a context as well, in terms of why is it important that we need to start looking at the environment and what we're doing in our boating sector. I'm then going to focus on, I won't be able to do all the environmental best practice and information that the Green Blue covers, but I'm going to focus on a specific project that we're involved in at the moment with Natural England, Marine Conservation Society and Ocean Conservation Trust around protecting, specifically, seabed habitats such as seagrass. And you might have seen a lot of this in the news recently, and the project was actually featured on Country File as well. So it's something that's very important around tackling climate change. I'm going to give you some really helpful resources that you can take away. I have some guides and things at the front here that we're going to be giving out. But on our website we've got some really useful tools that you can access. And then I'm going to introduce you to a brand new initiative that we've got running. It's really exciting, and it's the Boating Pledge. And I hope that everyone here this evening is going to take that pledge to respect, protect and enjoy our waters. And we're trying to get as many boat users as possible involved in that. So what is the aim of the Green Blue? We're essentially here to inspire boat users, clubs, centres and businesses, but also to inform and enable them to be more sustainable. And we're not just coastal based, we're inland, so we deal with all the narrow boating as well, so our remit's pretty big. But from the Green Blue's perspective, we draw on staff from the Our Way. So in the Our Way, we actually have an environment and sustainability team. So if you want support and advice, there's a team there to help you. And on the British Marine side, they're working with the industry, boat builders, companies to try and develop more products and facilities for us as boat users. So I just want to give you a bit of a context on a sort of global scale here. Why is the environment so important? Why are we focusing on this? I mean, we were chatting on the table earlier. From my perspective, I did environmental science back at school, and I was learning about climate change. This is 20 years ago now. And I was listening to the teacher, and I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. And I just said, I need to do something about this. If there's one thing I can do, if I can infuse one other person to, look after the environment and protect it, then I feel like I've made a difference there. And actually my whole career's kind of been focused on that. I've been a dinghy sailor, I've enjoyed yachting for most of my life. And then obviously this is the perfect thing where I'm encouraging boating to protect the environment. Because when I'm out boating, I go out because of that freedom and that experience in the environment. And if that was degraded, and if I thought that enjoyment and that hobby I'm having is having an impact on where I am, that doesn't sit well with me. So if I can make a difference and change what I'm doing, that's important to me, and I hope that that's something that you guys will consider by the end. So we can see here that climate change, really nice diagram. You can see rapidly over the last 20 years, as we've seen in the news, everyone I think is very aware of this now. Temperatures are changing and increasing across the globe. And that means that we're having huge ecological impacts, and that is going to impact us on the term, so we rely on those species, the biodiversity, and those natural resources. The International Panel on Climate Change just released its report last week, and it's pretty scary, but we were trying to aim to keep global temperature increase to 1.5 degrees post-pre-industrial, let's keep that now. And basically, we're in a situation now where, in order to do that by 2050, we've got to act seriously in the next 7 years. We've left it too late, but there is things we can do, and we can start rapidly changing now. And it's great to have Wayne here this evening as well, talking about how we can go forward with electric and actually start decarbonising, but also as part of the clubhouse, and little things we can do each day. Because every product you're wearing is going to have carbon emissions that have gone into producing that. So it's not just directly the combustible fuels you're using on your boat, but you need to be looking at and thinking about other things around that. So climate change is a big one. The next second thing, which is of concern globally but also in the UK, is biodiversity loss. And the main reasons behind that is land use change, such as deforestation, using cropland, urbanisation. We're losing a lot of this. Pollution, and that could be air, land, water. Climate change, and we said that's the biggest impact globally at the moment and in the UK. Invasive species, we all have anti-fouling, well not all of us, but we have anti-fouling on our hulls. That's to stop biofouling, but it's also great at preventing invasive species spreading around our waters. And those invasive species can be really harmful to our own native species. So it is good to have anti-fouling, but there is another issue with anti-fouling around the water pollution. And then finally, resource use, what we're purchasing, how much fuel we're burning on our boats, etc. But the diagram here shows you, if we continue the grey line's business as usual, let's just carry on the way we are, we're going to be losing huge amounts of our biodiversity. And without that, the whole ecosystem of what we rely on as humans is going to be impacted on. And then this is if we just put conservation in, just conserving what we already have. And then up here, it's actually working together and actually in harnessing. And there's these words that you might hear in the media at the moment, like biodiversity net gain. Let's not just protect what we have, let's increase it and enhance it as well. So, these all seem like really big things, and how are we as individuals going to do anything about this? It's really important to, yes, think globally of these big issues, but act locally. Things that really matter, like climate change, biodiversity loss, things you can control, that's what you need to think about, and then somewhere in the middle that will overlap and you will be making a difference on those bigger impacts. Okay, don't undermine the small things that you can do, and if each of you in this room does one thing on your boat, that will collectively have a big impact. And I always remember this story from when I was younger, when I was walking on the beach with my cousins, like I was probably 8 years old, and a plastic bag flew past us, and my cousin goes, "Are you going to grab that?" And it's floating off down the beach, and I went, "Oh, it's just one plastic bag, it's fine." And my cousin went, "Can you imagine if everyone said that though? There'd be plastic bags everywhere." And I just sort of looked at him and I went, "Oh my God, you're right." And then since I've got into environment as a career, I always look back at that point and think, God, you know, we were only 8 years old, and that, you know, that's saying something. So what I'm going to focus on specifically in this session is this project that we're involved in around protecting and restoring seabed habitats. And I know some of you guys are going to be going up along the coastline, up to the Essex estuaries, but you might be boating further afield as well. So this is good practice that I'm going to be sharing with you, no matter where you go boating. So I'd like to introduce you to the Remedies project. The Remedies project is led by Natural England and it's funded by the EU programme, so we managed to get the funding for this 5-year project before Brexit came in. So we were a little bit on tenterhooks because it was just at that pivot point and we didn't think we were going to get the funding, and we did. And it's not just us, we have a variety of partners involved. So RWA is a key partner, and because the Green Blue is the awareness programme, a lot of the things we're doing in the project is raising awareness, and that's why the Green Blue is kind of leading on it. We've got Marine Conservation Society, Ocean Conservation Trust, Natural England are leading on it, and then we've got Plymouth City Council and some others in the southwest. That's because one of the sites we're working on is in the southwest. But it's really positive to have all these organisations coming together for a common cause to actually make change to protect our seabed habitats. So an example of a seabed habitat is seagrass. We've also got another habitat called merle, which is more, it's an animal, but it's a bit more like a coral, a red coral. It's found a lot in Scotland, but the only site out of these 5 is it's found in the Falmouth and Halford. It's found in slightly deeper waters, the merle, so when we're anchoring it, we have less of an impact on it. So actually the project's predominantly focusing on seagrass. These 5 sites here have been selected because when Natural England go out and survey the seabed and look at seagrass, unfortunately the habitats in these locations are in unfavourable condition. That's the terminology they use. But the abundance, the extent of the seagrass is not in the condition it needs to be. So that's why these 5 sites have been selected. I presume most of you got to Essex, but do any of you go and visit and sell in any of the other 4 sites here? Just raise your hand, get a bit of an idea. Okay, yeah, so the best practice I'm going to be sharing with you is going to be relevant wherever you are. Now this particular project is focusing on recreational activity, hence why boating, but it's also looking at dog walking, people walking on the foreshore, bait digging, etc. But before I go on, what the hell is seagrass? When we started the project 4 years ago and I was talking to boaters, most boaters didn't even realise we had seagrass in our waters. So that was the first thing, is like, oh wow, we actually have this amazing habitat, it's not just in the Mediterranean. Special thing about seagrass is, it is like a grass. It's not like a seaweed, which has a seaweed has a holding fast that holds onto a rock. This actually has a root system, so it is similar to the grass that we have on our lawns and our gardens. And the great thing about this is the roots here actually bind the sand, so it predominantly grows in sand, it grows in shallow waters, and it helps to actually prevent coastal erosion as well. It is actually the only flowering plant in our ocean. Okay, so it produces little flowers. And you might be able to just see here, these are the seeds that the seagrass produces. And the Ocean Conservation Trust have been collecting seagrass, taking out the seeds, and then they've been replanting the seagrass in areas where it used to grow. And because we had a wasting disease back in the 1930s, we lost 44% of the seagrass. So by historical mapping, we're looking at, oh, seagrass used to grow here. Can we replant it? Because the conditions, it's sheltered, it seems like a good area. So there's some really great projects going on at the moment of replanting that seagrass. And they've been inviting sort of volunteers, communities to come in and make seagrass bags, which they then deploy off the boat onto the seabed and hope that the seagrass will grow. So it's a great way of being able to get the community together. So why is it so important? Why are we trying to protect this? It's a habitat for a variety of protected species. So we've got the seahorse here, so that's one that's very much renowned, but it also supports a variety of other species. I'm going to show you some pictures of those shortly. The other thing is, oh there we go, I was doing it for me already. Oh, I must have done it. So it helps with coastal erosion. As you can see here, that the roots bind the sand together, and that means that it's protecting our coastline from the climate change impacts we're going to be having through increased wave energy in action. It's also a great carbon store. You might have heard blue carbon stores, so we know that rainforests are really good at this. Seagrass is amazing at this, because not only does it store carbon in the fronds, it stores it in the sediment that the roots are binding at the bottom. So it's a bit like our peat bogs. So it's got a double whammy there, and it's actually proven to be more effective than some of our rainforest trees at storing carbon dioxide. So this is definitely something that governments are interested in terms of replanting them to help tackle climate change. Unfortunately, climate change is also a threat to seagrass, so it has its limits in terms of sea temperature, etc. The other thing is, it's really important for our commercial fishing. So if anyone's had fish and chips tonight? Fish and chips? You got fish and chips? No? No? So some of us had fish and chips this evening. The seagrass supports most of the fish that we eat, the top 9 fish, such as plaice, haddock, herring, and this is where the juvenile fish will live in its early days because it's a great habitat, it's protected, it's camouflaged from predators. So without these habitats, it's going to have a massive knock-on effect elsewhere. So just give you some examples of some of the species. So short-snouted seahorse, stalked jellyfish, that's probably only about 2 centimetres in size. These are all protected. It's attached to the frond there. Sea hare, believe it or not, it looks like a hare. This is actually a shell creature. It's a shell. You can see it wrapped in here. And we also have pipefish, cuttlefish, so they actually lay the eggs on the seagrass, and you can see some of the black eggs actually put on the fronds here of the seagrass. So not only is it a habitat in terms of there, they actually use the habitat to lay these eggs and protect them. And then really, you can see the camouflage here on the place. So the place is just hidden here. And people that have taken these photographs, so Fiona Crouch, actually she's not the project manager anymore, she's just left, got a new project manager now, but Fiona Crouch took this photo down in Plymouth, and then we've got Esther from the Ocean Conservation Trust who actually comes and helps us on our stands at the Southampton Boat Show and Dinghy Show. She's a diver and she's taking these photos down in Plymouth waters as well. This is not abroad, this is in our own waters, these amazing species. Okay, problem is we've got some threats here. I've already touched on climate change. Rising sea temperature, acidification, okay, of our waters. And what we mean by acidification is when you take a gas like carbon dioxide or sulfur dioxide, when you dissolve that in water, sulfur dioxide becomes sulfuric acid, carbon dioxide becomes carbonic acid, and that's the more of those gases we have in the atmosphere, the more that are dissolving into our oceans, and that's where you get more acidification. So it's going faster than me. Other issues we have is nutrients runoff from our land, agriculture, fertilisers, and what we find there is algae blooms that cover the surface of the water because they're using the phosphate up in the water, and then when that phosphate runs out, it dies off and the bacteria breaks down the leftover algae, and then that bacteria is what's using up the oxygen in the water, and then that affects the fish. But also, it blocks out sunlight and prevents other things from growing underneath it. And then we've got our recreational activities. Bait digging. As the tide goes out, it exposes the seagrass. Bait diggers go out, dig holes, trample over the top of it. And same with walking, dog walking. So we've got different seagrass in the UK. Some is submerged underwater all the time, and other seagrass is exposed when the tide goes out. And when it's exposed, it's susceptible then for people walking over it. And that's really important when we look at landing and launching our dinghies as well. We need to think about the trailer wheels and our feet when we're going out through the water and making sure actually we should be using designated slipways. I've specifically put up here boating, because that's what we're focusing on. Boating and anchoring is one of the main impacts on seagrass when it comes to recreational activity, but we understand that there are other threats. This is a mooring system, so the chain abrades around the mooring, and then we've got anchor. which the anchor chain, but also the anchor can rip through the seagrass. So we've got to be very, very careful. Some people don't believe this, they think, no, boating's not an issue, we're not having a problem, you know, there's far bigger impacts. But these pictures just give you a kind of realistic idea. So, there we go, we've got, have we got haddock or cod? It's come from seagrass, that's where it's living before. So we got here the chain, this is seagrass here. Can you see how that chain is ripping along the seagrass fronds there? And as the chain gets loose, seagrass gets into the chain, and then as it goes taut, as our boat is pulled on it, it then rips that seagrass up. And then here we've got an anchor scar. But actually, if we're on a boat and we are anchoring, we don't want anchor drag, do we? Because it's going to affect the security of our vessel. So actually, a lot of the stuff we're doing already is benefiting the seabed, because we don't want that anchor drag. So all those good things you're thinking about, your points of reference, making sure you're using the right anchor for the right substrate, is going towards helping that. But we kind of want to not anchor at all, really, if we can help it in these protected habitats. The other thing is the mooring systems. So I showed you this picture earlier. This is where the chain has been running around the mooring block, which is up here. And the chains are fixed lengths. So high tide, most of the chain is going up through the water column. But as the tide drops, most of that chain is laid right the way out and abrading the seabed. Surely we can come up with a better design of our mooring system. So as the tide drops, you haven't got all this chain laying out. Can you see that okay on this one? This is an aerial shot of St Mary's Bay in the Isles of Scilly. Now, I looked at the other sites on Google Earth, but because the Isles of Scilly water is so clear, you can actually see the seabed. The dark patches here is seagrass, and you can see all the moorings, and there's little pockets of bare sand. That's where the chain of the moorings has been abrading. Now, in the past, you used to just anchor here. It was probably worse in the past. At least these are fixed moorings, they're doing the damage in that area, and then that's it. But there's still things we can do to help with that. How can we anchor better? How can we make our mooring systems better? So what have we been doing in the project, the Our Way, to help you as boat users help protect these seabeds? The first thing we've got is the Green Anchoring Guide to Anchoring and Moorings. I've got some copies here on the front desk, so we can give some of those out, and that gives you the top tips and best practice all in one place, so you can use that as a reference. We also have a digital format as well. So that's the first thing we've done. So all this information I'm telling you now is condensed in that one document, in that one little booklet we've got. The other thing is, when we started the project, we were telling people where the seagrass is, why it's important, and boat users are like, oh my god, we need to protect this is great, but where the hell is it? Good point. How do we know where it is unless we can't see it? And I think that's a lot of things with boating. It's hidden under our hull. We go to a place, we don't maybe think about what's under the water and what we might be doing to that. Whereas if it's visible to us, and we see that in fact like plastics, because it's visible, it makes sense, and when we clean it up, we've got that instant gratification of we've made an impact. But when we're talking about water pollution or other things, we're not seeing that immediate impact, we're not getting that satisfaction maybe that we're making an improvement. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't be doing something. So what are we doing to help you identify where to locate it? The first thing we're doing actually this week, we've got a meeting with our hydrographic office. They provide all the data to the software chart companies, and then you have your Navionics, Raymarine, all the rest of it on your boats. And they will be able to then put a layer, seagrass layer area on that, and when you go onto your digital charts, you can select that layer and it will bring up where the seagrass is. So wherever you're going boating, and then we're also looking at getting onto the paper charts. They were going to bring that to an end, but they've extended that now in terms of producing paper charts, which is good. And also working with IMRE publications as well, to get them to the handbooks that you might have if you're visiting a certain area. So really, really positive stuff. So fingers crossed for the meeting this week. I definitely know that the hydrographic office are keen to have the data, It's more natural England, which we're trying to, you know what it's like with government, it's a little bit slow, a lot of admin, but we're hoping that they're going to provide the data year on year to the Hydrographic Office to keep these updated. Other things we're doing is we're providing signage like this that are going to be put up at marinas. So this is the one we're going to be giving to marinas in Plymouth. We're going to be doing some for Essex as well, Solent and Falmouth and Halford. But essentially it's a nautical chart. The purple is where the seagrass is, and the yellow here, you might just be able to make out, is a voluntary no anchor zone. So some sites will have voluntary no anchor zones in them. Having it as a nautical chart helps us as boat users look at the contour lines of the depth. So if we go, right, I want to go visit Corsan Bay over here to protect me from the southwest winds. I know seagrass is here, 5 metre contour line is just on the boundary. I'm going to make sure I'm anchoring at the 5 metre contour. Then I know that I'm probably going to be safe even if I can't see what's on the seabed. Now, other options are marking it out. Put a buoy out on the boundary, so when you arrive at a place, if you haven't seen a chart and you haven't seen a map, you've got a buoy there. Oh, there's the boundary. I'm going to anchor outside that. Unless, of course, there's a safety reason, you need to get in there, etc. Hence why the RWA's worked really hard to make sure that these are voluntary no anchor zones, not no anchor zones. And then finally, the maps and stuff we're producing are just for the 5 sites. But currently, there's a really good tool online called the Magic Map, which is run by DEFRA, just here. And I'll show you an enlarged image of this because it's quite hard, there's a lot of detail on there. So I've just done an example of where some of you might be cruising on the Essex coastline. But if you go and just put in Magic Map online, you'll get a map, a legend, and all you have to do is click Marine, National Seagrass Layer, and then just tick all the boxes. And then essentially what happens is data starts coming up on the map, and you can go all the way around the UK, zoom in, zoom out. So no matter where you're going boating, you can see if there's seagrass there. And then what you're going to do is just match it up to your charts and get your depth contours and kind of figure it out from there. But at least you kind of know it's in that area or not. But I will tell you, this doesn't show all the seagrass. So you might think, oh, there's not much seagrass up on the Essex coastline. There is loads more. It just hasn't been surveyed yet. But I know the Wildlife Trust have recently done a load of surveys up on the Essex coastline, and there's lots of seagrass there, and you can see from this picture. But it might not be on the map yet. But it gives you an idea for the timing until it is added. So who's going up to Essex? Who's going up on the coastline on the cruise? Okay, so a few of you. Okay, so all of these 5 sites are special areas of conservation because they're trying to protect specific habitats and wildlife and species within them. The conservation site covers this whole area, as you can see on the map here. 7 special areas of scientific interest, 15 other protected areas, including special protected areas. An SPA is usually for where there's loads of bird population, so it's really, really important. All the mud, salt marshes in this area. So we need to not just be thinking about anchoring. What are we discharging off our boats? Can we use eco-friendly cleaning products on board? Can we think about maybe installing a holding tank to prevent the discharge of raw sewage going off our boats? We can see that sewage companies are doing it, and we're not particularly happy about that. But what are we doing? Can we do something about our own contributions? So, this is the best practice seagrass-wise. Number 1, locate the seagrass. Use those tools I just showed you. Number 2, you know where the seagrass is, anchor or more away from it. Number 3, if your only option is to go into that seagrass area, you might be lucky enough to be in a site that already has what we're calling advanced mooring systems. These are, you could have called them eco-moorings as well. So some of the sites do have these in. If there isn't one available because someone else is using it, or there isn't any at all in the area you're visiting, and you've still got to go into that seagrass area, use an existing swing mooring. Yes, it's caused some abrasion and damage, but at least it's there and it's done the damage. It's better than doing a fresh anchor drop and chain abrasion in a new patch. Now, if those options are totally out and your only choice is to go into the seagrass protected area and to drop your anchor and your chain, then there are some methods that you can adopt. And actually you can do this no matter where you are, because seagrass isn't the only important habitat on our seabed. Even mud is a special habitat that looks after specific protected species. So what can you do? Avoid your anchor dragging and then minimise your chain length. So this is an RBA diagram here, which tells you the recommendations of chain length. You'll know for your vessel what the minimum chain length you'll need. Okay, keep to that minimum. I know it's really tempting to go, you know what, let's just add an extra metre out just to be extra secure. Let me show you a diagram to demonstrate what that would possibly do. So here's your anchor. You drop your anchor onto the seabed. You put out X amount of chain, say 6 metres, because that's the minimum for your vessel. This is 6 metres on the seabed, not up to the bow of your vessel. But this abrades, if it did a full pivot in the wind and tide, 113 metres squared area. That chain is abrading. You know what, let's just whack out an extra couple of metres, you know, just to be extra secure here, even maybe a metre. What does that suddenly do? Gone up to 201 metres squared just by having an extra 2 metres once it's done a full turn. That's nearly double. So you can see your marginal changes in what you're doing is going to have a huge impact on that habitat. And then when the divers go out and start surveying these areas, and we're doing the best practice we can, and minimising, then we can say, well actually it could be a hell of a lot worse if we were putting out more chain. The other thing is, if you're stopping off for lunch in Anchorage and the tide goes down, pull your chain up a little bit, don't leave it. Pull it up, adapt it. If you're staying overnight, it's a little bit more tricky. You've got to kind of keep it at the maximum depth of water, but you know, you can't avoid everything. I've got a video here, you might not be able to hear it, but this is just an introduction to these advanced mooring systems and the types that this project's trialling. So we're putting these in at various locations across the 5 sites. Apparently the sound doesn't work very well, but I might try and put my mic up, but there is subtitles.
Our coastlines are enjoyed by millions of boaters every year, but with these numbers only set to grow, some of our fragile marine ecosystems are increasingly under threat. Traditional swing moorings can damage seabed habitats, like seagrass and merle beds, that provide homes for marine wildlife, support coastal economies, and play a vital role in carbon storage and the fight against climate change. In these traditional moorings, a chain with a floating buoy at one end attaches to an anchor block on the seabed. As the tide and wind changes, sections of the chain can scour the seabed, causing damage. With advanced mooring systems, or AMS, the buoy on the surface is attached either through a highly durable elastic riser or a chain riser with a series of floats, stopping contact between the riser and the seabed. Additionally, the traditional anchor block, which can move in strong weather, can be exchanged for a helical screw anchor, carefully screwed into the seabed. AMS are reliable, insurable, and take up less space than traditional moorings. Having been used elsewhere in the world for 30 years, AMS are now being trialled across the UK to ensure we preserve and continue to enjoy our wonderful coastline for decades to come. Be part of the solution. To find out more, visit saveourseabed.co.uk.
So that was a bit of an animation created by the project to help kind of explain what these advanced mooring systems are. They're great, they're not necessarily a new technology. This is what they look like in real life, so we saw an animation of it. But essentially, instead of having the chain, one version is you have an elastic riser, and there's different companies that are creating these. One's Hazlitt Marine, one's Seaflex, and another one's Safemore. And So these companies have been designing them for a while now, and advanced mooring systems have been used, and there are actually some already in the Thames. The other thing is trying to remove the anchor block, because that takes up a lot of space. I mean, I've seen tractor tyres filled with concrete as an anchor block and all sorts of different things like drain covers. You know, some of them aren't particularly technologically advanced. These are designed specifically, but instead of having an anchor block, which is covering up a lot of the seabed where seagrass can't grow or other habitats, we use an helical anchor. Now this is used in the construction of buildings actually, so it's not new technology either, and this is what we use to build all our old piers along the coastline. But back in the day, to drill them into the ground, they used horses and people going around as, turning around. And a lot of our piers, even when they get burnt down, are still standing because, those piles are put in really, really well. So this is 2 meters, so it goes down into the substrate. You then got your elastic riser, and the whole point of this is it stretches, so it takes the tension off the bow of the vessel, which is what usually the chain would do when you've got it lying down. And then it can retract in low tides as well. So there's these different designs. They are still improving upon them, but the project is putting these in place. I just want to show you an example of a video here taken down in the Solent of Cowes to show you the impact of a traditional swing mooring. So the project had a volunteer, a yachtsman called Chris Cooling. He's been volunteering for the Marine Conservation Society, and he took an underwater camera out and put it underneath his boat and went to Osborne Bay off North Cowes. Has anyone been to Osborne Bay? There we go. There's a big seagrass patch there, just so you all know. Now this is one of the mooring blocks then. Oh, I don't think so. This is your computer way with buttons. Okay, there's no sounds here, right? Well, there's a bit of an underwater sound, so I'm not going to do an impression of bubbly water, but you can see there's the anchor block, and then you've got the chain coming out. Now remember that St Mary's photo in the Isles of Scilly, the aerial view, with the kind of scarring patch? Imagine you're coming out from the anchor block, following where the chain is, and this is where the chain has been abrading on the seabed, until you get to the outer side of where that chain length is, and then you'll see in a minute the difference. So suddenly you hit this really healthy seagrass bed, very abundant. So there you can see that impact that's happening. And these advanced mooring systems are hoping, to reduce that. We're already seeing benefits from some of them that have already been installed. So down in Plymouth, Port Bay, there are 7 of these advanced mooring systems put in place with the floating buoys on. And they've been monitoring those, and seagrass is starting to come back, so that's really, really beneficial. Down in the Solent, we have 7 of those in Yarmouth, so that's north of the Isle of Wight, and they've just put in 2 Seaflex riser ones there as well. The whole point is this project trying to build data up to, 1, make you feel more secure as boat users using these moorings. But I can tell you now, they're designed so much better than the traditional ones that it's an absolute no-brainer. They're just a bit more expensive, that's the challenge. So the helical screw, just a quick video here to show you how it's actually installed. So you have divers that go down under the water, and they have a contraption that locks onto the helical screw and drills it into the seabed. I'll just skip forward. So you can see here it's turning around and drilling that 2-meter helical screw in there. And the good thing about these mooring systems is you can tell exactly what tonnage of vessel you can actually moor to them. I had an email from a boat user back early on in the project who said, I don't think I'm going to use one of these mooring systems. I don't trust them. How do I know it's going to hold my, weight of boat? And I said, that's a really good point. How do you know that the current moorings you're using are, fit to hold your weight of boat? What's communicated to you there? Maybe we can do that with these new moorings. The answer back was, I don't know. I just trust the harbour authorities to put the right moorings in. So with these, you can actually accurately determine the tonnage and write it on the buoy on the surface. So when you go up to it as a boat user, you know, right, that's going to hold my vessel or not. But they are really, really good. So just to give you know, that's the safe moor one, slightly smaller for smaller vessels. Now this is the Seaflex one, but this photo here is for a floating hotel in Dubai. So they can make them really, really big. And they can, increase the amount of flex rises on them from 2 up to 6, and then they can put more on them. I'm trying to find the housing. So this is the floating buoy one. So this is the one down in Khorsand Bay and off Yarmouth. So you can see here, and Esther from OCT, the diver I mentioned earlier, took pictures of the species. She took this video as well. So you've got the floating buoys I positioned up. This is a slightly cheaper version of the other ones. But you can see on the buoys here, you see where the algae is not growing. That's because the chain's rubbing on the buoys going up. And that's exactly what's happening on the seabed. I kind of really look like. So that's the bit around protecting our habitats, and I hope you picked up some good top tips there. I do have a feedback form which I'd love all of you to fill in. It's basically saying what you learned and maybe as a boat user what you might intend to adopt going forwards from those top tips. Because I can then take that back to the project and say, look at our fantastic boaters, they're all more aware of seagrass, and look, they want to do this best practice. Or maybe you don't, you can be absolutely honest. And there's a comments box as well, so if you want to give the project any feedback from a boat user's perspective on what you would like to see more of, what you don't agree with, everything like that, please write it down, and then I'll put some of those around on the tables afterwards. So just to finish off, I just want to show you some really helpful resources. I hope it's correct. Yeah. So the first thing is the Green Blues website. We've got a whole section for you and your boat with information on a variety of variety of issues: anti-fouling, black water, electric boating. There's a whole array. Please do go on there and explore, because it tells you all the best practice you can adopt and gives you really good contacts, like Wayne, who's going to be speaking after me about electric boating. And we've also got a whole section for clubs. So Mike, there's Mike, there we go. So Mike's been going on there and looking at how we can actually do checklists, environmental checklists of the club, and help make improvements to help you as boat users achieve sustainability. We've got our guides, some are at the front, they come in hard copy, you can order them for free off the website, so the club wants to match to those. If you want to share them with any fellow boaters, we've got those. This is our most popular tool on the website. It's the environmental facilities map, and it tells you where all of these different facilities are around the UK. So, if you're looking for a recycling point, it will tell you which marinas have them. Pump out, where you can dispose of your flares. So, if you didn't know this already, at the end of December, the government is not doing free flare disposal anymore. So if you've got old flares, you can't take them to the Maritime Coastal Agency units anymore. They've stopped receiving them, and we've teamed up with the government, Department for Transport, and we're now populating our map with where you can actually take those now. So it's either a marina or a flare manufacturer, so just so you know. And we're hoping to get more of those as we go on through the year. Hazardous waste, refill points, filtered abundant washdown, so marinas where you can take your boat and wash down your boat, and it will collect the anti-fouling residue, so that copper and zinc isn't going straight out into the water. Boat recycling facilities, electric charging points for vessels and for your cars, if any of you have got them. We've also got the business directory, and this lists more sustainable products for boat users. Electric engines, inboard, outboard, more sustainable clothing for sailing, recycled rope. So here Marlow Ropes have produced a dock line, but also smaller rope, and this is made from 100% recycled plastic bottles. So do feel free to come and have a feel, see if you notice the difference. I don't think you'll notice any difference, but essentially it means that we're not using virgin oil to produce these ropes anymore. We're recycling old plastic to produce them, so that's fantastic. Who has old sailcloth that they're trying to get rid of? I've been up into the sail loft today, so there's quite a few sails up there. I don't know if they're still in use, but there are a variety of companies now taking in sailcloth. So if you do have any old, contact these. More and more of them will be developed. Waterhall, this company here, they produce got sunglasses and all sorts in the southwest, made out of recycled plastic, and now they're accepting spinnaker sails because they're making litter picking bags out of them. So that there are options for you to choose from. And then finally, the last thing is this exciting new initiative that I all want you to sign up to. It is the Boating Pledge, and essentially it's a pledge that all boat users, young, older, dinghy sailor, PWC user, yacht sailor, narrowboater, can sign up to pledge to respect, protect and enjoy our waters. And the best practice in this pledge is all really simple things that we can all do, no matter what the cost is. Things are affordable. We don't need loads of money to do it, it's just the basic things. And it mimics the countryside code. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, so it's the same wording. British Canoeing brought out their own code, Paddler's Code, which follows the respect, protect. So we're all working together, but I'd really encourage you to go on. You've got the QR code here, and I've got some A4 leaflets out at the front here. I'll dot those around as well. You can use your QR codes on your phone. And if you can pledge today, that would be fantastic. Not only is that showing us how many people within our boating community find this important to them, but it means we can go to industry and say, look, this is the amount of boaters that want more sustainable rope, want more electric engine options, want to be able to recycle their sailcloth in more places. You need to provide this. There's not enough pump out facilities for holding tanks. We can have a tangible number there and actually say, look, these are your customers, and then get moving. We know there is a shift in attitude and we are passionate about the environment, but it'd be good to put a number on it in terms of the boating community specifically. That brings me to the end. Thank you for listening. I covered quite a lot there. Most of you managed to hold your attention, didn't have anyone snoozing at the back, so that's quite good. But if you need to contact me, go to the Green Blue website. All emails come through to me. My name's Kate. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed the talk, and I'm going to pass you over to Wayne.
Microphone, because it's nice to get a bit more involved. So can you all hear me? Yes. If you can't hear me, move in closer, grab a pint, and come and chat. So, what a great talk from Kate. Kate's part of a network of, group of people that are really trying to make change and give you the tools, inspiration to make choices, better choices, land and at sea, in order to spread awareness, get good optimistic views on our future and really try and make a difference. It really is kind of down to all of us to get involved in these things, to find the information on the websites such as the Green Blue. A really great talk, and thanks to Kate. So I've only got a few slides. I run a presentation where it's very much engaging, so I'll run a slide, I'll say a couple of things, you might have a question, throw it on the floor, alright? Somebody else might have another question to go with that question, then we can open a debate. Hopefully it won't be heated, and we can kind of keep it to a good level. But yeah, it's an open platform. What I've done and what I do and what my team does is next generation sailing technology. We specialise in expedition sailing boats and making them as sustainable as possible. So my first question is, has anybody heard of ocean literacy? Show of hands. Anybody heard the term ocean literacy? Okay, one over here. Alright, so it really is that. It's a simple understanding between us and the sea. So ocean literacy is knowing about our impact on the ocean and its impact on us. Okay? It's everything that Kate has just talked about. It's everything that you do day to day. It's everything you do when you're on the water, and it's everything you do when on land. Okay? The relationship between the way we live now and the way we're going to live in the future is highly dependent on the state and health of the ocean today and tomorrow. And that includes all of our rivers, and obviously, well, I'm from North Devon. I'm based in North Devon. We also work out of Southampton as well, and obviously North Devon is a stark contrast to the big city. I've done my service here. I did 10 years in London. And we know there's a big difference. We know there's a lot of work to do. Okay, so ocean literacy. Have a look, Google it, Wikipedia. Just bear that kind of those two words in mind as to how that relates with your everyday life, how it relates with a club, how it relates with your hobbies, how it relates with your work. Okay. Right. So I am an ocean advocate. I live and work with the ocean lines. I have done for very many years. My original background is marine civil engineering. I've done 20 years of experience in island energy, so I've built island energy remote systems in the Caucasus on top of mountains. I've built them in the middle of the desert in the Middle East. We've powered eco homes. We've converted boats, farms, homes, all sorts of stuff. I live off grid in North Devon. I have done for 10 years. I live off a combination of wind, solar, and hydro. I don't use any fossil fuels at home, and I don't use any fossil fuels when I sail. As Kate mentioned, I'm an ambassador for Green Blue. I'm also an advocate for the Ocean Conservation Trust. I'm also an ambassador for 5GARS, which is a global initiative in regards to data capture and microplastic pollution wherever you are in the world. I contribute to 1% of the planet, and I've sailed 5,000 miles, probably more, using only an electric craft. So the 5,000 miles I've done on two of my boats, mainly the Contessa you can see there has been done without any diesel, without any LPG. We run the boat as a research vessel. She's a Category 2 offshore sailing vessel. We'll talk a little more about it in a minute. We have researchers on her. We cook, we sail, we anchor, we motor, all on the available natural resources at the time. So, Sail Electric is a yacht modernisation service. So, like I said, we specialise in expedition sailboats. Customers will come to us asking us to prepare the boat for expedition, to sail around the world, go on a particular mission. We will look at the vessel, we will look at where the vessel is going, who's operating it, what the demands of the expedition or the mission is, and we will build a mission statement and a project around that objective. Okay? I'm the UK Northern Europe agent for Oceanbolt, which is a Finnish motor manufacturer. We specialise in their product because they're world leaders in regeneration. So that's recharging the battery when you're sailing along. We'll get to that. We do design, installation, training and research. The design, so we model boats, so we know, we can model how much energy your boat is going to need to motor a certain distance in certain conditions. We provide installation and training in regards to best practice to put it in under ISO, set committees. We're also trying to create standardisation and best practice in regards to installing new technologies and research as well. So our own vessels and some of the vessels we're dealing with are top level research. So we're testing the limits of the technology. We put our own vessels out into some very difficult situations. It's very windy and big sea conditions. We're racing this particular boat actually this year to the Azores and back, which is a Category Ocean race, to make sure that our methods and the technology and partners we've got is up for the harsh marine environment. And like I say guys, if there's any questions at all about any part of this, we can have a chat on it. just throw it onto the floor, no problem at all. We can flick in between the slides, there's only like 10 or 11 slides. We can have a chat about any part of this at all, okay? Okay, so this is one of the boats we've done. This is the Nuna, she's a class 40. This boat was, we were commissioned to do a completely zero emission boat for a couple of guys called the Turner Twins. They were exploring the poles of inaccessibility, which is the furthest distance from land in various different parts of the world. This particular expedition was to find the pole of inaccessibility in the middle of the Atlantic. The objective was to work with the Plymouth University to do some studies, drop a couple of buoys, look at the North Atlantic gyro, which is a plastic accumulation zone for North Atlantic current, and sail there and back without using any fossil fuel at all. So we built the boat, the system architecture you can see on the left, batteries you can see on the right. So this is one example of a type of boat we've done. This is another one. This is due to go around the world. The owners commissioned us to rebuild the boat. She's a lovely boat. She's a lifting keel. It is a Category 1 offshore sailboat, so it will go anywhere. The boat came to us in quite a poor state of condition. They bought it quite cheap from the Mediterranean. It's been, well, nothing short of, say, a gin and tonic palace, really, in the Mediterranean. It was left to ruin. It wasn't very well maintained. So the boat came to us for full refit. The owners also wanted to be as sustainable as possible. So we took the diesel engine out. So you might see the engine bay there doesn't look like a normal engine bay you might see on another yacht. That is a 30 kilowatt modular electric motor, direct to shaft. The boat also has electric cooking. We actually put this boat back in water this afternoon in Campbell. We've got a solar array to go on the back of that as well. The boat has a diesel generator on board. Some of you might think, okay, we've just taken out a perfectly good diesel engine. Isn't that good? But the principle, we've taken out a perfectly good diesel engine and put in a diesel generator. By having a hybridised system on your vessel gives you a myriad of options in regards to looking after the localised coastal environment, so you can go in and out of port on electric. You are also using diesel at its most optimum. So when you run the diesel, we run the diesel flat out for as short as possible, minimising the amount of diesel you're putting in, optimising the whole system. Then you draw down from the onboard storage, the battery system, as and when you need it. That might be to cook and roast dinner, that might be to make passage into port. Going back to the design, installation and training, we then train the operators, then how best to get out of the system, the best way to get out of the system. So for example, you might be coming up to a difficult passage or a difficult port entry, and we need to make sure that your system is ready for that, and then we train and advise on how best to get the system ready for that particular passage. You underway, the whole system regenerates, so when she's sailing, we're putting around about 500 to 600 watts back in the battery from sailing on this particular boat. We're also putting around about the same, if not slightly more, with solar, but it's
Can you not use diesel, use green diesel, like my friend used to run his car off straight off,
So the diesel generator in this vessel is top of the range, and it is now, within the last couple of months, been approved and will be released running on HBO, so that's hydrogen. So yeah, biofuels are a significant mover in regards to the diesel fuel. The bottom line with running a vessel, whether you're going to run up and down the Thames or whether you're going to cross the Atlantic, is replacing such a valuable and dense energy store as diesel. Okay, you can't yet get a battery that will replace the size of your diesel tank. Okay, so we still need diesel for these bigger vessels, and we still need diesel support for these commercial vessels here. But we need to optimise it better. Diesel engines, new boats really shouldn't be attached to shafts. It's a very inefficient means of propulsion. By having high level storage on board and being able to charge that at its most efficient is obviously a way forward. It's obviously the future we need to adopt before we can look to a completely green solution. Biofuels does still give off carbon. Yes, obviously the source is much improved. Okay, so the stories, a quick run through. This is what it is, what Say Electric does. We work on all different types and sizes and shapes of boats. This is up here, this is my little logo, this is Gregor Boat's got an electric and media outboard on the back. There is a mast for that as well. We use that for pulling around, getting out to the mooring in North Devon, because our boat sits in North Devon. We've worked with Hugo Boss, so Hugo Boss runs one of our propulsion systems, obviously Grand World, one day boat. Expedition cruises that we've just been describing. And this boat on the top left here is there's the story behind one of the reasons why I do what I do with Sail Electric, and what is an initiative called the North Devon Marine Project. So this boat here was bought and prepared for an expedition around the world, an all-woman crew exploring all very remote places around the world to raise the awareness on microplastics. I was commissioned back in 2019 to add a couple of batteries and a couple of solar panels. 8 months later, I completely rewired the boat. A very emotional, remarkable lady called Emily Penn. I discovered that there was an awful lot of work to do for the health of our ocean. Okay? Incredible story. COVID actually cut the expedition cut short. They are continuing on with the expedition in regards to joining the ship. Yeah, sorry.
You could use the mic. I can't hear.
Sorry, instead of being talking, I will try. Where did the mic go?
Actually, sorry, do you mind not, just because it goes through the rest of the bar as well, so can we just move forward?
Come forward, come forward. I'll try and shout more. Yeah, apparently not. Okay, I'll tell you what, I'm going to stand up here. Alright. So Emily Penn's boat discovery there was a journey around the world. So one of the things that stuck out to me when I first met Emily was she spent 10 years at sea as an ambassador for the ocean. You know, she's the ambassador for Sky Ocean Rescue. She's like a remarkable human. She had a blood tested for 35 of the known banned carcinogens by the United Nations. From spending 10 years at sea, they found 26 of those banned carcinogens in her bloodstream. From spending 10 years at sea. Messages like that really drove home. It was like, hang on a minute. Now, I've surfed, I've sailed, I've kayaked my whole life. I live in North Devon, I grew up on the River Severn. But actually, things like seagrass, a couple of years ago we didn't really understand the impact. The impact seagrass has for carbon sequestration, based around the amount of carbon we put in the atmosphere over the last 10 years or so, is incredible. You know, the amount of microplastics we're seeing out in the oceans when we explore is incredible, you know, and there is only a fraction of the impact out there that we're actually seeing. The latest report by 5GIS suggests that there's 175 trillion pieces of plastic in the ocean at the moment, which is quite incredible. So what has all this got to do with electric boating? Well, it's all relevant, isn't it, you know? Everything's connected. Seagrass, microplastics, low carbons, making sure our bilges are clean. Do we have a filter on our bilges? Where's the water going? Do we organise in our club a little beach clean here to clean up the beach down the way? Are we going to be able to clean up the River Thames by doing a little beach clean here with the Greenwich Yacht Club? No. But are other people going to see what you're doing and feel inspired to do the same? Yes. You know? So we Sail Electric to pass a message on. We sail with these boats, we inspire these customers and these clients to pass messages on. Okay? So yes, the future is electric. No, the future is not lithium. Okay? So many of you might have questions about lithium batteries. I am no advocate for lithium. We are spending a fortune in time and money researching hydrogen as the next energy storage carrier. I'm not going to get into that now. This is hopefully what we're going to see out here. There's a lot of work to do. This is my boat. Any questions?
Do you mean hydrogen as a fuel cell?
Yeah.
Fuel cell, not burning as
Both actually. So the green hydrogen, just to quickly cover green hydrogen, we have we can produce green hydrogen with solar and wind. We just can. Can we produce enough of it for everybody? No. But can we replace fossil fuels and some of the issues we've got around some of the lithium technologies? Yes. It is another part of a very, very big puzzle. Okay? Anyway, so this is essentially what Nazca, my contestant 34, looks like. She is predominantly powered by solar. She has a servo prop installed, which is a propulsion system on a leg, hangs out the bottom of the boat. We have 4 positions of prop. We can fully feather for optimum sailing. We can have an optimum position for reverse, so we can crash stop the boat if I try and park it in the marina. We can also have optimised for drive, so we are most efficient when we are propulsion. And we can also optimise the pitch for regeneration. Okay, so we can drive the boat forward at its most optimum. We can make sure that the energy from the battery storage on board is sent to the prop and moves the boat forward at its most effective. We can reverse and crash stop the boat effectively, and we can feather for optimum. We can also regenerate. So, servo prop, a higher level of architecture in regards to a relationship between us and the sea, optimising these blade angles to do 4 different jobs. The energy storage system on board is pretty small. It's 10 kilowatt hours. Okay, so if you've got a kettle, 1 kilowatt kettle, travel kettle, on for 10 hours, then my batteries will be dead. A combination of regeneration under sail, the 1,000 watts of solar I've got on the back and on the deck means that I can operate this boat from April to October without any outside support. There's no generator on board. There's no supporting systems. I very rarely plug into shore power during the summer. During the winter, yes, we do use shore power mainly to run and keep the boat dry and to top up the battery because we don't really have enough solar. And when I'm not doing the miles to recharge, then just pop it around and we use shore power to charge up. If I do use shore power, like I'm parked in Padstow at the moment, the southwest beautiful location, I do ask the marina where do they get their energy from? By the other marine tariff. Various different systems run on the boat. This is the brain behind everything. So everything on the boat that you see here, including all the NEMA 2000 architecture from navigation, wind instruments, sea level, sea data, depth, temperature, etc., is all stored and monitored on that device. It's sent out to not only a screen and an interface on board, so we can see what power is coming from where and going where at any given time, so we know how long we've got to go, how much energy we'll put back in when we're sailing, what the solar's doing, or what our shore power is doing, or if I'm kind of cruising along sailing, can I cook something in the oven to put enough energy within the boat and recovering as we go. That information is then sent to an online portal. That online portal also stores that information for a year. And for us back in the office, all of the data comes through on my phone. So alarms are kept locally. You've got a low battery, please recharge. We'll set the systems up based on the level of sailing or experience. If there's a significant problem with the boat or the operating system, it sends an alarm to us here and to Finland because we're on a motion box system, and we can generally fix, diagnose or assess remotely and even get the boat back safely. All of the systems come through to my phone. It doesn't ping all the time. It doesn't bother me in the middle of the night. It is reliable, well installed, well operated, with the knowledge behind it and a bit of guidance from us from the start. It's a safe, durable system. Okay?
So is your water heater coming from the electricity or from?
So water heaters from the electric? Yep.
Not from direct solar?
No. Well, yes, because the solar can directly charge the water heater immersion, but not from a thermal capacity. Though that would be possible, you could run a pipe through there. These solar panels in the back specifically are bifacial. So on the left there, they are 450 watts each, and they're bifacial panels. They actually take energy from above and below as well. So that's refracted energy from the ocean, which is nominal, but importantly actually quite a lot of energy from the white deck. Monitoring systems on board, this is on the deck. I've got obviously full MFD. There's a lot of screens downstairs in regards to running the system. We have data on hand from the helm position to the still helm position that gives us battery time, state of charge, how long it's got to go, what we're doing, the prompt, whether it's charging, whether it's using, and then a much grander amount of energy, amount of information on the screens down below as well. So, that's my motor room. We don't call it an engine room, we call it a motor room. And that's what she looks like. Parked in Padstow, it's actually a lovely December afternoon. We Well, we use that boat really to set an example and to find the limits. So, are those batteries in the back there going to perform if we put that boat out to 55 knot winds and 5 metre seas? Well, we didn't know. So we went out there and find out. And if they don't perform, and if there is a problem with them, then we go back to the manufacturers, which is Victron Energy in this case, we report back to them to see how we can improve that for time. Actually, they've been fine, the whole system's been fine throughout. We haven't been managed to break it yet. We really have. The one thing that breaks is need, so it's well tested, you know. We practice what we preach. We're not going to try and sell you a system or design a system for you without having gone out there and researched, developed, tested, and done the miles as well, so we can pass that information down to you guys. The knowledge is everything in this stuff, you know. I mean, so a lot of you, hands up for cruisers here. So we've got cruiser and ding sailors, we've got cruisers. So on a cruiser, you're monitoring your battery. You've probably got one switch over to number 2. You're monitoring the amps, you're monitoring the voltage. Hopefully, you're getting a reasonable state of charge. Well, imagine that lot massively expanded. Okay, so we can know when what's going on from the solar. We can power this boat on a bright sunny day directly from those solar panels, directly to that prop, and have the solar push that boat along 3.5 knots without using any battery power. Because we've got that information in front of us, we can assess as to what the best options are for us here. We don't have any supporting diesel or petrol generators on board, so we have to apply high levels of seamanship in regards to passage making in our stomping ground. So I'm based in North Devon, I have a deep water mooring in Appledore, I have a mooring in Falmouth, and we sail the Celtic Sea. Alright, so we've got tide here, we have a 10.1 metre rise and fall in tide in the Bristol Channel. If I miss gates when I'm sailing between often Falmouth, Plymouth and Appledore, North Devon and South Wales, if I miss those gates, I either stay out to sea, find an anchorage point, which on the north coast of Devon and Cornwall are few and far between, or I make the gate. There's limited options in regards to not having a diesel engine to rely on. It goes like that. So when you're setting off, you know, you're thinking, well, hang on a minute, I've got to apply these historic seamanship tactics that even before I started sailing electric that I'd forgotten. You know what I mean? But actually, doing this and being sustainable on the water, reducing your overall impact, is actually quite straightforward if we apply common sense and a bit of passage making, a bit of seamanship and passage planning, which I think is really good fun. You know, I love planning. Typical sailing for me is Falmouth to Appledore, back again. We do events all over the place with the boat, we do demonstrations. It's about a 36-hour run. From Falmouth, I've got Lizard, I've got Land's End, and I've got Hartland Point. I've got to make a 4-hour window, and ideally 2 hours before high tide, at the Bideford Bar to get in. On a 36-hour passage, sometimes you're kind of like, oh yeah, it's going to be alright. Other times you're like, I'm going to make another plan. If the weather turns, I have to go high. You know, if it really gets bad, the safest place for me is out to sea. Well, actually, that's a lost art, because if you're in that position now, switch the engine on, hit the diesel power. So the whole ethos of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to promote on the water is the same as it's always been. It's just a lot of it's been forgotten. Okay? We do performance and
Well, your boat is really impressive, but I'm concerned about affordability. Are you involved in smaller cruiser, simpler conversions?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. You know, we do a modular approach. You don't have to. This system is the servo prop, if you like, the main motor system, and the energy storage are significant parts of the boat. Okay. We are moving from traditional battery systems to lithium. I'm sure many of you have heard the benefits and the reasons why we run electric cars on lithium. It's a modular approach. Right, looking at those amps on your battery meter, yeah, if you're going to be removing LPG, a fossil fuel, from your boat, then we need to be able to know how are we going to be able to cook without LPG. Well, this boat has induction cooking. Now, I haven't used induction cooking before. before because I was on LPG living off the grid at home. But since I converted the hob at home to induction cooking and put an induction cooking on this burn, I'm a complete convert. There's no wasted heat, it's really, really efficient, you know, it's another dimension. But with gas, we don't really know how much energy we're using. You just turn the bottle on, turn the gas on, off you go, your cup of tea is done. Whereas with induction, we do, because we can measure it accurately. Now once we know how much energy a cup of tea has cost, then we can then build the rest of the systems around it. So you might start with a monitoring system to understand how your boat runs at night for 24 hours. You know, then you might think I might sort of remove LPG because I want to up my battery stick. You know, I want to be kind of off grid for longer. I want to stay anchored longer. I'm going to add a solar panel. For that solar panel to be efficient with a lead acid traditional gel battery, the difference between that and a modern lithium phosphate battery could be 30, 40%. You know? So all of these little bits and pieces that you're kind of doing only improves your vessel, improves the experience, also creates a sustainability schedule for you, but it also increases your knowledge as well. And that is fundamentally the foundation of what we're trying to do, is just increase the knowledge, you know. If you are cruising at 4 knots in your diesel powered cruiser and you put the throttle down to 6 knots, you might think, well, I'm not really using that much more energy. But we know the math, right? You can't measure that in a diesel engine. You know, you can kind of measure the flow of diesel, but diesel engines are naturally inefficient if they're not running at optimal. So we're not going to run that diesel engine at optimal all the time to get an optimal diesel burn to stop, say, glazing the balls in the diesel engine. But also, if we're optimising the diesel engine, we're also running at, say, near Hulk speed because the engine's been designed for the boat. Well, actually, then we're pushing a lot of diesel through the system, which is looking after the diesel engine, but we're not actually going much faster. So if we throttle back and come back to sort of 4 knots, we're getting a lot more bang for our buck. We're getting a lot more energy in distance than for the amount of diesel we're using. But we're not necessarily effectively using the diesel engine. So there's a number of things we need to consider. In my mind, from a professional standpoint, I don't think any new boats should have a combustion engine attached to the shaft. It has profound benefits for coastal and port, near coastal areas, ports and harbours, profound benefits. The cruises and the boats we've done, we're working on, down to a little 16-foot Plymouth Pilot that I've got to finish off back in North Devon this week. You can go out of Watermouth. We live in a UNESCO Biosphere Reserve. You can go out a little natural harbour, go fishing with the tide, come back with the tide, use his little electric motor to get in. He doesn't need diesel engines. You know? So by wanting to be sustainable, he is now demonstrating to the rest of the harbour that it is possible, because I'm going to go fishing with the tide rather than against it. So a slight change in mindset, a slight change in methodology, a slight change in action for what is a leisure vehicle or a leisure, a hobby at the end of the day, can have profound benefits later on. We also sail with a leave no trace policy. Okay. Kate touched on Antifoul, really difficult subject. What do? We need to keep the stuff off our hulls because we need to keep our hulls efficient, regardless of whether we're using diesel or electric. Okay? We need to combat invasive species transfer. We can't be moving this stuff around the country or the world, so we have to have a solution where we're keeping the bottom of our boats clean and we're not moving things we don't want to around. We do a lot of research on what should be the best option for us, and we actually went for what is the Hemp or Silic 1 product, which is a silicon-based foul release system. It starts off with a 2-pack epoxy primer, horrible stuff, obviously we've done this in the shed. A tie coat is then applied. There's a chemical bond between the tie coat, the primer, of which then the silicone is then layered on top. If you were to take the boat out of the silicone, it would be one sheet. It is what we call a hydrogel. So polymers are added to the paint to give the structure a water-like property. It has 2 advantages. It forms a boundary layer, which kind of keeps your efficiency up, and it also mimics water from this hydrogel property, the polymers of the paint. So it doesn't stop organisms attaching to it, but it dissuades them from attaching to it. But it also dissuades them to a point where they're not really attached as well as they would be if they had a bare hole. So when you're moving through the water, the idea is the foul is released from the antifoul system, from the hole. It does work. We've put the boat under several conditions. We're about to drop the ROV down now to assess the impact of growth on the boat on the northern coast in winter. We're doing the same on another vessel, which will be done in the summer, particularly the part of summer when the ocean temperatures are higher. And when we sail, most of it falls off. It doesn't all fall off, and the difference between this and a really nasty biocide-based antifoul is this has to be maintained. So we get down there with a sponge and we just wipe it. When we're working with clients who adopt sort of a leave no trace policy, so all electric, all renewable based, and look at the foul release system as well, then we let them know straight away that it is not a plug and play system. You can't just put it on and expect it to be okay. Most boats stay in the dock for like 3-4 months, they only go out for 4 or 5 weeks a year. So just before they do go out, it has to be maintained. It's part of the transition or the shift in attitude to the way we operate and work with our boats. So,
sorry to tell you this, because we have quite a fast tide here.
Yeah.
Would that be enough to
we will find out, because I think we're going to do a project on the river a little bit later on. Is 4 knots enough? What is the tide or the stream? And we know what the race is here?
4 at most.
About 4 at most. Yeah. So for the spring we can get 4 knots. So probably it would help dissuade organisms from attaching, but to keep it up, yes, you do need to go out with a sponge. One of the issues on the River Thames, which you might, if you've got drying, if you're going to dry boats out, is the damage you do to the silica when you're drying boats out. We did dry this boat out. I hate it. It's like the worst thing ever. But obviously you've just got to monitor the bottom of the queue. So the flow of water would help definitely, and I think maintaining on the river here with the flow of water is probably quite difficult. So there needs to be a discussion around how you might maintain your cruises. Are they going to get lifted up the slipway a bit and then kind of wiped off? Are they going to do it in an area here? Are you going to be able to lean them up against the wall and give them a wipe? Are you going to be able to dive the boat? Okay, so various different stuff to think about in regards to maintenance, but it is probably the best we've got at the moment. The next generation of anti-fouling, if you like, is probably going to be from commercial. It is horrible stuff. I mean, it's not available to us yet because you need a specific environment and a lot of training to put it on. But essentially, it is so hard and so smooth that organisms will find it so difficult to attach to it. And again, as a release mechanism and clean, but that real hard stuff you're going to put on your boat is coming, maybe in a few years' time. But yeah, it's controlled stuff.
So it's working by stopping organisms attaching. It's so smooth.
The new one is, yeah. This is a hydrogel. So this is a silicon-based polymer added to the paint, which creates a boundary there. It mimics the water. It's a really weird. So when we put this on, this is the first time I used it. When you touch it, it's kind of like silicon rubber, like you might expect. But if you let your finger, it's like ice. So when she's in the water, she's so slippery. Yeah, it's remarkable. So really,
That degrades over time, does it?
it doesn't degrade, it compounds. So when it compounds, we just add another layer of silicon. So I was recommended by the builder of this yacht, actually Jeremy Rogers in Limiton. He had one on a Contessa 34, installed 7 years ago. He topped it up once and it's still in really good order, so that's what swayed me. We're testing it. We installed this last year in August when we did the full refit. So we'll be reporting, and Kate will feed back. And interestingly, the CEO of Yahweh also runs the system as well. He's been running it on the line. Material science changes over the term, over the years, so there always will be improvements, and obviously that kind of maintenance schedule around the application of it needs to be around as well. So, yeah. But it was, I did run that boat without anti-foul. I wanted to see what would happen. I don't recommend it at all.
Could you not do different parts on the side of the boat with different systems?
Yes and no. We've got one system on the boat because the system is inclusive of the energy system around it. So we need the dynamics and the material science, if you like, from the whole approach. So we have to have we can't have one side as copper coat, one side as hydrogel. But we've got a Bilge Gill saddler 25 as well, which we're going to run this on, which dries out. So we're going to see the silicon holds up on a soft sand bed. There aren't many other opportunities. There is copper coat, which you've probably heard of. I'm not a fan because of the heavy metals. The lifespan between this and copper coat is around the same. And obviously, traditional anti-foul for us with a lean no credit trace policy agenda, it is out the window anyway. So yes, that's probably about the best we've got. How are we getting on? Near the end, Stay Electric and what is the North Devon Marine project is part of a big picture where we're trying to look at each individual part of boating and trying to find ways, methods of inspiring you guys to feed back to us as to how you're going to transition. So we can do all of this stuff that you've just seen here. Obviously finances, economies of scale will help, industry, policy, mechanisms will help, charging points, support, grants and funding. But all of that's all going to be able to come together if we all work together for the same cause. We're a unique bunch in the world of climate change and biodiversity loss because we enjoy the water, we have access to the water. It doesn't matter where we sail, we could be in the Docklands, we could be out to sea, we could be crossing oceans, we could be running up and down the canals. But this beach clean that we could do up the river now is not to clean the River Thames of every bit of microplastic you can possibly find, but it is hopefully going to inspire others to take on similar tasks. So collectively, with all of us working together, we can make policy change happen. We can inspire other people, other groups, other clubs, other community actions to really make a difference. It's going to be hard going, it really is. There's no real fix, there's no silver bullet that's going to solve all of this in one go. But every little bit you do, every little thing that you think about, and every little change that you make has a positive impact for what is the future. So, a quick sum up on the boat. We've got a limited range. We're a sailing boat. If I run out of wind, we can motor a little bit with solar. If we really run out of wind, we'll drift over and rebook. It doesn't happen very often. It's usually, unless we have way south, it's fun. She has zero emissions. She's a floating lab. She's a field workshop. She's a floating research station, exploration, energy storage. Like I said, with lithium phosphate, I won't get into the technologies now. We are looking at hydrogen as an option. The motors is the easy bit. I've got a grinder in my shed, which my granddad had. And I don't even know if his granddad had it before. Electric motors just work. So if you want to put electric motors in anything you've got around here, simplest, easiest thing in the world. Give it power, give it a bit of control, away. Yes, there's a bit of design, we can help with that. Yes, there's a bit of what motor do I choose. Yes, there's a bit of what truck do I choose. But simply, electric motors make sense. They really can. It's the energy storage that is the challenge, and it's going to be the challenge for a while. But your sailing ability, your sailing techniques, your experience and knowledge building from trying out this technology and looking at what goes behind it will mean that you can operate your boats within the available natural resources and the available technology that is around today as well. All of these little changes mean that we get a much higher result, much better result. So yeah, 175 trillion. Well, that's a lot. Emissions are still increasing. Everybody knows this. 10 years ago we didn't, but now we do. We don't need to tell you guys what's going on out there, but we can make little changes. The latest IPCC report is the 6th one. Unfortunately, it's not good news, but it can be good news if we all work together. Okay? So we do these talks, we do these presentations, I will sail at zero emission with a lead no trace policy to turn up at a marina and talk about how I got here, why I got here. I'll talk about every pen, I'll talk about the boat, I'll talk about microplastics, I'll talk about what we find, what we're about to do, what we're looking to achieve. And if somebody goes away from one of those talks and actually, hang on a minute, I might just organise like a little beach clean, like that, or I might just change the way I go shopping, or I might just not use the diesel so much in my boat, or I might just make sure I've got a bilge filter so I'm not pumping any nasty stuff out the bottom. One thing, that's all we need to do, it's just one thing, a little change. So that's it. So I am wind powered. We did have a wind turbine on the boat, it actually shapes the solar panels more than it produces. Interestingly on that boat. On one of our other boats as a catch, the wind turbine goes up on the mizzen, and the little mast on the back, and performs admirably. It doesn't shade the solar panels down below, and because it's higher above the turbulent other boats and the turbulent ocean, it actually works quite efficiently. So yeah, well spotted. There is an attachment for the wind turbine. If I'm expedition, if I'm running an expedition in winter on that boat, I will take it with me, so we can stick it up. If we're hiding and we've got like 20-30 knots of wind, it'll drive 5 knots back into the battery when we're sitting down there. Any other questions? Yeah.
So obviously, because it's the main system like 48 volts, and the solar panels are like 24 and it's all good.
So the solar panels are actually 48 volts in that. And we can boost the voltage up. So most of your solar panels will be 12, 24. The larger solar panels you'll see on the expedition yachts are actually rated at higher voltage. We can actually go up to like 150, 160 volts you'll see on the solar, and then manage that back to 24 volts. And then that 48 volt main propulsion bank is then fed to a 12 volt converter, and then that runs the bus.
And also stuff like the volts.
AC, yeah. So we run a microgrid, so if we go back to here, this is a 5000 VA, so 5000 volt ampere, 5 kilowatt converter. So we can run the induction hob, I've got an air fryer on the boat actually, which is new. So I don't know if anybody used an air fryer? Yeah, what a revelation, right? Amazing thing. So it cooks in 3/4 or 2/3 of the time, and it uses a lot less energy. I can bake with it, I can grill. Well, now I'm no chef, because I'm not inviting around for dinner, but I mean, it's incredible.
That's the normal commodity one you're running off.
Off mains, it's actually quite small.
It's never very dignified to talk about money, but I'm just wondering what the differences in cost is between the old-fashioned anti-foul that you're suggesting there.
About the same.
Is it?
Yeah, you've got to lift the boat, you've got to clean the boat. Nazca was shot blasted before we did it, so that's expensive, but we had a clean substrate. There's still one system you can use. If your anti-foul is in good order and prepared well, you can actually go over the top of it. So yeah, it can actually be cheaper to run silicon if you've got the right design and if you're willing to maintain it than it is to run traditional anti-foul. Anything else? Yeah, so electric outboards. So I think one of the chaps here, maybe still around, had a little torpedo. So obviously we've all used petrol outboards. They are a massive pain. They never start. You can't leave them on one side. They leak. They're difficult to refill. So again, we've got the same issue with energy storage in our outboard, but if we know the amount of energy it takes us to get from our dinghy to our boat, or from our boat to the beach, or from the boat to the pub and back again, then we can make sure that we've got enough energy within our electric outboard to do so. Electric outboards, give or take 3 times the price of a petrol outboard. So you don't have to get a service twice, 3 times, 4 times a year, because the ethanol of the fuel these days keeps messing up the carburetion. So you can't do it yourself. You have to spend a couple of £100 every time you get a service. And you just put it on charge when you're ready to go. The limit with an electric outboard really is obviously the range, but if you know what you're getting into, and you know you really need to get out to the moorings here, you've got a wonderfully light, convenient, clean, easy to look after device. It's a bit like the difference between an electric iron and having one you put on your stove. It's just convenient. Yes, they're more expensive. No, you don't look at it. If you're travelling with an electric outboard and you have a traditional boat set up, then if you move to electric outboard, then you're already starting to think how to optimise your cruiser. So we're thinking maybe a battery upgrade. If you have a battery upgrade, we can get more out of your alternator. So we can make your engine do more. If we can make your engine do more, you've got power to spare. So you've got power to spare, you can charge your outboard. You're already on that journey of both knowledge, wisdom and sustainable savings. And there are other outboards available. Some of the ones are custom, like you see Chiquino, for example. They are an integrated system. Others are actually made with the motor stuck on the power head in a traditional build. So we use Elka outboards based in the US. They use a 1999 Yamaha leg. All of the parts are available. If you smash up a prop, you don't have to go to the torpedo to get one. You can go down local channel and stick in your prop. It's called a motor. So have a look around, shop around,
So with that, Wayne is going to be around for a while. What he's staying in London for the night, so he's available to take any more questions. I need to hand over the floor back to Richard to do his Tuesday night announcement soon. So feel free to stay on and talk to